Good evening. Welcome to Dialogue with Dozell. You've got the you got DV, you got me, Dozell himself. Listen, tonight's show was planned as part three of our conversation about. We're going to talk about. I've been very intentional that we're going to carry on these themes and shows that deal specifically with our community. Um, that we regress or progress uh, through integration. This was part three, and I'm kind of by myself. Well, there's one call. Hold 1 second, Mr. Jones. Okay, joining me now is one of our main guests, Mr. Quillie Jones, and we're probably gonna just do a very abbreviated show tonight. You see the way I'm dressed. I just had a little situation, and so I'm back. Mr. Jones, how you doing?
I'm thankful. How are you doing?
Great, 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 great. You are our hero. You are our senior. And tonight we were going to talk about part three of, as I'm being very intentional about carrying on shows that are central to our community. We want to talk about that we progress or regress with integration. Our realtor, my good friend Juna, had a last minute engagement, so I wanted to talk about the housing market. So we may just kind of put that on hold and have an abbreviated show tonight. How are things with you, sir?
I'm thankful. How's everyone? Blessed and thankful. Blessed and thankful.
You can't have a better combination than that, blessed and thankful. Amen. So you have good services yesterday?
Excuse me?
Did you have great services yesterday?
Super.
Good, 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 good. We were going to talk about the housing thing tonight. That was going to be one of the first things that we talked about tonight in regards to did we regress or progress through integration. Mr. Jones, I know you have made a very intentional statement by not moving away from the hood or the neighborhood. It's not. I know you don't live in the hood, but that's from the neighborhood.
You can identify it as a hood.
Okay, all right. If you would just take a second and just tell us about tell us why you live where you live and have resisted opportunities to move away.
Well, the Lord blessed my wife and I to accumulate this property some years ago when my son Gregory Quillie was just a young boy, and I've never seen any need to relocate. So we decided that we came to the neighborhood. It was very, very pleasant neighborhood. It provided all the equity that we needed. And I was so busy being thankful for the house we have, because when we purchased that, when the Lord blessed us to purchase the house, very few blacks was buying homes then. And as the Lord blessed the Housing Authority to open up under Secretary Bush, who was just the housing director, I think it was Weaver or Bush, one of the two. And we were happy to see younger folks being able to move into different communities, different neighborhoods. So never gave it a second thought. We just see how young people, my daughter, she's living in a gay community, and Coach Quillie lived in a gay community. But we remain where we are, and we're happy where we are. We were happy where we are. And everything was very cool, very fine. We enjoyed it.
What is your experience as far as it, people who look like you and I being able to buy where we can and get the lending resources that our money can afford? What are your experiences, or what do you know about people not being able to do that?
Well, it was a blessing for the housing to open up, but it has been rewarding to some, I guess, and disappointing to others. There was a lot of redlining taking place during my era, and that meant that they were overcharging you. It was difficult to get a loan. You had to go through FHA, and depends on who you are able to get to take a look at your loan and finance it. That dictated whether you will be able to acquire the home or the residence that you want to live in. It was okay, but during the Kennedy administration, when you had a black director, I think it was Secretary Weaver, Bush one. I've forgotten which one it was, but it was the black Secretary of Housing, Urban Development Secretary, and that gave us a lot of support in terms of purchasing homes and getting loans. That avenue was opened up for us very good, but then the system found out, depending on who your realtor was, how to make it difficult for you. Overcharged, difficult to get approval. And I remember when the federal government planted people in certain departments to evaluate how blacks and other minorities was being treated, but there was equity in them securing finance and purchasing a home in various neighborhoods. And at one time, we had set up a system where there were some whites that would front for black, see how they could go by purchasing homes and see what the quality was and how the financing was. And there was a lot of realtors and lending institutions was fined as a result of them double charging and denying blacks sales and accepting whites for the same houses at different costs. So it's been trial and error.
What about the other side of it? What about Mr. Jones? I remember like Sherwood, Forest, and all of those areas that were nice. I was just talking to somebody the other day about Rebald High School in Rains. You could throw a rocket, you could throw a paper plane from one school to the other. They're so close because they're in Jacksonville. They intended the blacks and whites would stay over there at Rains and would not go to Rebald. But soon we started buying land and started going to those properties, and of course they moved out. White flight. What's the phenomenon of white flight?
Let me share with the audience who may not be familiar with what you have reference to. The subdivision that Pastor is referring to is one of the first divisions that blacks were able to acquire homes and there was a lot of problems with those areas because that's where a lot of whites lived, and they moved out as you find that 2 or 3 blacks began to move in and make purchase of homes. And we had to have the federal government to come in and police those neighborhoods because they were overcharging it. There was not any equity in what they were doing with us. In 1961, I believe it was, 2 schools that Pastor is referring to. One was a predominantly white school, and the other was a school that was being developed for blacks because the school that blacks were in attendance of was an all-black school by the name of Northwestern High School. And William Raines High School was a school that the school board had agreed to build to keep blacks from going to Rebald, which at that time was predominantly white school. During that time, Pastor, we were in the movement, and the superintendent of the Board of Education was a fellow by the name of Ish Brand. And he had considered converting Raines High School into a junior high. So the director of the NAACP, the late Rutledge Pearson, and I decided we'll sue school board and personally sue the superintendent. And he decided that he would not build the school as a high school, but not build it as a junior high, but a high school. We were going to take him to court. And that time, a lot of the segregation cases was under the two federal judges, Judge Scott and Judge McRae. He changed his mind about building Range at the junior high, which meant that Range was built as a high school. Rebo was predominantly white school, as I said earlier. But after we threatened to sue, then blacks began to enroll in Rebo. At that time, there was a principal over there by the name of Billy Parker, who was very receptive to accepting black students. And the William Range first principal was a guy by the name of Dr. Andrew Robinson, which is one of the smartest blacks in the world. He and I served on the State Board of Education. And Dr. Robinson was one of the smartest people in the world, as I said, and he later on became the president of the University of North Florida. So we had our experiences of pleasant and uncomfortable, but the Lord bless us to overcome it. That's the synopsis of the history of the high schools and the subdivision on the Northwest Jacksonville side, Sherwood. Later on, there was another subdivision, Reebok Scenic Drive, which the homes over there were a little more dilapidated.
Oh, really?
A little more, yes, it was more dilapidated. But let me rephrase that. They were more quality of home, if you will. And they were a little larger than Sherwood Forest and Lake Forest. And blacks began to move in that community. And as they would move in, whites would move out. And as a result, that subdivision today has become more than 95% black.
I look at Arlington when I come to town, and that was when I was a kid growing up. That was the exclusive part of town. I used to remember being on the Matthews Bridge and looking at those apartments right there on the water, and I don't know what the term meant, but in my mind I said, man, this has got to be sexy living in a place like that light reflecting from the water. I just thought it was an awesome place. And as you went further in Arlington, and my dad had people that he worked with that lived over there, we would go there from time to time and so forth. And I said, wow, it's awesome over there. And now I see blacks live over there, whites have moved out. I guess the phenomenon of white flight is that they'll just keep moving further and further out until things are being built for them places are being built and land is being developed for them to live in.
Well, that's typical America. That's nothing strange about America. White folks run away, try to keep from being neighbors of black folk. The area that Pastor has reference to is one of the most exclusive suburban areas in the city of Jacksonville. One of the most exclusive. That community has become, I think, 85% black.
Wow.
It's a very quality homes. But the thing about that, Pastor, was that they were double charging blacks that wanted to move in and secure or obtain some of those homes. So again, the government had to come in and investigate, change, and had to do what was necessary to do in order for blacks to get equity in terms of being purchased.
Wow.
So that's we've had our ups and downs, but the Lord bless us to overcome all those obstacles. It has not been easy, but it's been a blessing to see how the Lord work.
Well, Mr. Jones, speaking of a blessing, we would be totally remiss if we didn't say what a blessing you are. You are like a treasure. Your wealth of knowledge, it's evident you and your wife, your children are all smart. You're wise, and we're just blessed that in 2023, yeah, we can draw from you. I was challenged by you on last week about the power of protest, and some of the things you do as a host, you kind of throw some things out there just to get attention and get conversation around. But you all kind of excuse me, spoke some things to me that left me last week pondering, and I have some things from Jan that she sent, and I just want you to know that we sincerely appreciate you and appreciate that. I want to talk about some landmarks. I don't know what the theater.
Let me say this. I thank the Lord for the law, and I thank the Lord for allowing us to come together and have such a beautiful dialogue and give Him the praise, glory, and honor.
Thank you, sir. Bless God. I'm with you 1,000%. I don't know the landmarks in Jacksonville. It was Ashley Street, Myrtle Avenue, and Florida Avenue. In fact, I was up there last week and I shot a video in front of the Bob Hayes statue there on I think that's A. Philip Randolph now, but what used to be Florida Avenue. The landmark here was Sistrunk Boulevard. They are rebuilding Sistrunk. They have really big investments have poured into there. We're kind of talking about the landscape and the landmark of a community. And Sistrunk it's right down the heart of the Black community. And in fact, they have an annual Sistrunk Festival, and they had it last week. Now, I'm always seemingly out of town always when that happens. I see they revitalized like the Ritz Theater and I think the Roosevelt Theater. Would there be a purpose in at least preserving a block of Ashley Street, which was the commerce community of the Black community, was like it was our downtown. I'm old enough to remember what it was when we couldn't go downtown. People like you who went down and integrated the lunch counters and made it possible for me to get on the old buses rode in our community without the air conditioner and to hop on one of those buses. And I know my mama prayed the whole time. I think I was 9 years old, maybe 10. Rode down there, rode 12 Florida, rode down. Went to one of the recently opened lunch counters at Woolworth. Is that Woolworth that was connected to J.C. Penney's? Was that Woolworth or was that another store started with a W?
That was Woolworth. That was Woolworth.
F.W. Woolworth, okay. And I had a malt and got my little happy hips on back home and headed on back over to 1245 Jesse Street because people like you blazed that trail and made it possible. But that was just something that I was just able to do within a year or two of me doing it. But we could always go to Ashley Street. Would you see a need to preserve like a portion of the Ashley Street corridor as a place where people would still see as a heart of our thriving community?
It's important for us to maintain and secure our neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Integration came in as a result of we being curious as to what happens on the other side of the city. Asher Street, Broad Street, Kings Road, Davis Street, McDonald Street, those areas were Black businesses and successful Black businesses. And the corridor of those areas were very, very open for us, and we were very happy in those areas. When integration took place, when the Lord blessed integration to take place, we were so curious and hungry to find out what's happening on the other side of the street. We forgot about our community and our neighborhood. We went running downtown, suburbs to find out what was missing because we had no idea what was missing. We were just curious. Wow. We thought it was good to go down there and entertain with people and associate with people. But we forgot about home. And as a result, a lot of our businesses folded up and had to go into bankruptcy. Curiosity is what really hurt us. As the Lord blessed us to demonstrate and sit in, and And I recall as we were sitting in Woodward, they was pouring hot coffee down our back and our head. And of course, we was committed to nonviolence, and we couldn't react to it. Coffee only cost us 10 cents, but many of us didn't have the 10 cents.
Wow.
And the logic in that was that we knew they weren't going to serve us.
Wow.
We were not afraid of going to jail because knowing that they weren't going to serve us, we just going to continue to challenge the evil. And once economic development took place, and what I mean by that is, as we sit in and as we picket, we announce boycotts. Unimaginably, we spend more money than any other race. And as we boycott, corporate America felt the results because other people live by a budget. We didn't live by a budget. We get paid and we spend.
Wow.
We get paid and we borrow. We get paid and we get hungry, broke. So as a result of that, when we stopped shopping, stopped spending money, they felt the pinch of it.
Wow.
That's what drove a lot of businesses to the negotiating table. And being at the negotiating table, we demanded quality, we demanded service, and we demanded the quality of hiring.
Wow.
And as a result of that, many chamber of commerce across the neighborhood bought into it because the businesses of which they were representing were getting caught up in not making enough money for corporate America to survive. So I say to everybody, if you want justice, stop spending your money because we spend more money than anybody else. The Lord blessed me to speak at the Republican State Conference a week and a half ago. And my speech was based on crazy, negative, racist governor who is not white. I don't know what he is, but I said at that conference, at that meeting, this governor is prostituting black children, trying to keep them from learning history about themselves, but they were open arms for black boys and girls to play sports at the University of Florida, FSU, Miami, and Central Florida. And they make millions off of the blacks who participate in sports. 90% of each athlete that plays in different sports, they are turning that university into success and finance more than millions of dollars. And don't be for the blacks who are participating in sports, they wouldn't have a team of inequality. And I said then that parents should get together, have a meeting, and put a boycott on the universities and not allow their children to play if this governor is going to eliminate black history.
It's absolutely amazing what you're saying, and we're going to see how this whole thing plays out. They're having some infightings on the Republican Party, and thank you for telling me that that you spoke at that Republican. I very well remember. I was having a civil service hearing in the city that I work for, and it was a whole lot of black folk down at City Hall for my hearing, and we took a break. And when we took a break, my dad, who was always there supporting his boys and his family, was at the during the break, he was speaking to one of the hierarchy who was representing the city, who was basically prosecuting me. It was kind of like a litigation. They were on the other side, and one of the guys said, he said, "Man, I don't think he knew. I think he thought my daddy didn't know who he was talking to." He said, "Man," he said, "tell your daddy don't be talking to that." He used the epithet, and so he went over there and kind of got to my dad, and so when Dad finished talking, he came back. He said, "No, son." He said, "You don't understand." He said, "You always want to keep the line of dialogue open because that way you know what they're thinking." And I kind of relate that to what you just said about speaking over to the Republican. And I mean, we have to work together anyway, and especially in this state that this clown is turning into a strictly a red state. But there's just wisdom in saying keeping the line of communications going so that we can dialogue about these things and know where the other guy is thinking, or the other girl is thinking. Mr. Jones, you're absolutely blessing us tonight. I thought that we would be a little short tonight, cut the show short, but we want to talk about, I want to talk, you alluded to it a second ago about protest, but we're going to come back and talk about that because that's where I was challenged last time. And I want to pick up on that shortly after the break. But I want to share something that before we go to break, and possibly this is something that we may still do at the halfway. I'm kind of staying, other than promoting my brand or my church or stuff like that, I'm kind of staying off of social media, or I post the prayers on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. For the most part, I'm staying off. But my good friend, and I'm sure you remember him, Mark L., who I think he ended up running for political offices up there in Jacksonville. He posted right before I signed off a few weeks ago. He posted a memory of WPDQ and what a hit kicker it was. WPDQ, as you know, in Jacksonville was formerly a top 40 station that was the second station to WAPE, and WAPE, of course, was like a station that went all over Southeast. I mean, literally, their range was all over Southeastern America, just like WLAC out of Nashville reached down to us. Well, we reached out, that WAP reached up there. Well, WPDQ was the second station behind it. And it was bought by a group, Ken Knight and others that put together. And it had one of the greatest array of talent that you'd ever know. Otis Gamble, Joe Bailey would eventually be over there. Mark Little, Eddie T. Taylor. The pressure cooker would even come over. Otis Gamble, who did those mornings, his brother, Michael Gamble. But my friend from right down here in South Florida, Lil Sugar Daddy, Lil Daddy John Hill, and WPDQ was just an awesome. And I've kind of lived over these United States, and I've never seen, of course, things have changed the radio, but what an absolute awesome thing that WPDQ was back in the day. With Ken Knight with the gospel and everything, it was just an awesome station. And I think people need to know, before syndication and all of those things, we had those kinds of blessings that helped to bless our communities, and we wanted to just bring them. We're going to take a break. We'll come right back, Mr. Jones. We're going to talk about protest and how to effectively protest. We're thumbing our nose at the calendar of America, which gives us the shortest month on the calendar, which is February, to celebrate Black History. Draymond Green said it, and maybe I'll show that clip if they don't take it off. He said it the other night in a press conference. Our history is to be celebrated, not just, he said, our history is bigger than February 1st through the 28th. It's January the 1st through December the 31st. We come back again January the 1st through December the 31st. We come back again January the 1st through December the 31st. So that's what the dialogue is doing. We're celebrating our history. We're going to break. We'll be right back. They got absolutely every last one of your needs, every last one of your virtual needs. GoGigaWorld.com. Check them out. Go to their webpage right now and let them hook you up. Make you look as good as they make me look. Wow. Hey, yesterday was the 58th commemoration of one of the most iconic dates on the calendar of the civil rights movement. It was the 58th anniversary of Black Sunday. Black Sunday is the Sunday that nonviolent protesters led by Dr. Martin Luther King and others walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, in their trek to our civil rights leaders in their trek to vote. It's called Bloody Sunday because as they came across the bridge, as the freedom walkers came across the bridge, they were beaten badly by the sheriff's office of Selma County, and they were beaten into submission, just beaten mercifully. And Congressman John Lewis, who passed about 2 years ago, before leaving us, he had a chance to walk gracefully along Black Lives Matter Plaza there in Washington, D.C. He became a beloved figure of the civil rights movement and a beloved figure in our history. And John Lewis was beaten unmercifully on the Edmund Pettus Bridge there in Selma, Alabama, 58 years ago. When he died, he was driven from one side of the bridge to the other, his remains, to celebrate where we have come. And I think there's a petition to add his name to that bridge where they have monuments and so forth. So yesterday, just to tell you, they were singing in that day, "We shall overcome." I'm sure you remember that, Mr. Jones. "We shall overcome someday." Well, that day has come. Yesterday, an American president, who was the second one, President Obama, spoke from there on the 50th anniversary. And on yesterday, he happens to be a Caucasian, but he's a lover of God's people. President Biden spoke from the Edmund Pettus Bridge and walked across portions of it with Reverend Al Sharpton and other political and civil rights leaders. And we're just grateful that we can commemorate from where we've come and to say to our brothers and sisters, there are no bridges that we can't cross. There are no mountains we can't climb. There's no rivers that we can't get over when it comes to doing right and doing the will of God. Yesterday, the 58th anniversary of Black Sunday, the dialogue commemorates that. Mr. Jones, you want to comment?
Yeah, I want to go back and revisit the statement I made earlier because it is important, very, very important for we parents and older people to understand if our children are being prohibited from learning Black history in school and they recruit our children to go play ball and they aren't able to learn about their own people before playing ball, this totally unjust experience you're getting doesn't make sense. And I wish parents to send their children to Black to white universities. Give it a second thought. Should your child be right there playing ball for the school and the governor trying to make us feel like we're third-grade citizens by not teaching our children whom they want to play ball for them about ourselves? They need to know from which we come and how we've overcome what we had to go through. We should sing, "We shall overcome someday," but we changed that in 1962. We shall overcome today.
Yeah.
Deep in our heart. And I wish that parents take it very serious. Don't allow your children to play ball for these institutions where they aren't able to study about us. We need to know about our history, and America needs to know about our history. But if you're going to have a man that's going to use all kind of negative adjectives and pronouns and nouns to say this is, in his terms, how he define it, let's don't play ball. And I bet you we get some results. You can't be, and I speak from experience, you can't be protest and boycott. Believe me when I tell you. That's how we got where we are now. By not adhering to any and everything. So that's my my passion now. Every time I get a chance, I'm reminding parents to keep their children away from those universities. Go to black universities.
Mr. Jones, you have really challenged me. Actually, last week I was challenged talking to you and Jan about this subject. We're talking about particularly the NFL. Now in college, they have what they call the NIL deals, where athletes are paid for their likeness, and you can make the same money. So many students with the Jackson State with Deion Sanders have made money because of the NIL deals. And I think that's something that we do need to consider. We really do. Something's going to be done about the craziness in Tallahassee. I work with them. We're going to have in the next few weeks the leaders of the nonprofit Faith in Florida, which does voter registration and seeks justice across the state. Strategies are being devised to try to make up for what has now become a political dominance and with the political dominance is all the craziness that you've been describing and you've been talking about. Let's see, Bernard is saying, what about students who don't play ball, Mr. Jones? He said, what about students who don't play ball, Mr. Jones? How can they make a difference?
Well, the ones that don't play ball are not as impressive and relied on as those who are. Ball players develop a lot of revenue for those institutions. And then when you look at the dead presidents that they bring in, that's all they look at.
Mm-hmm.
But the non-athletes are not as, if you will, not as given attention as those who are playing. See, when you look at University of Florida, 90% or 92% of their team look like us.
Right.
University of Miami, 90 and 92% team look like us. FSU, 90 and 92% of the team look like us. So that revenue is coming in as a result of being successful. Those stands are filled when you talk about 100, 125,000. And when the victory becomes part of that institution, then more people coming back. And that's why I always say, let the alumni deal with this governor. The finances, those who finance the campaign, let them deal with this governor. He's not as big as the university. He's not as big as a lot of dead presidents. So we need to let our children know if they prohibit us from learning about us, then we don't want to play ball for the institution. Send them to the black school. They're going to get the same thing. No contracts. They're going to get endorsements. Only difference is that they're going to the university that may have a little more exposure. But now we have a network that televises black colleges. I'm not saying cut out playing. I'm saying go on a boycott from playing for these universities until the governor come to his sense and stop trying to degrade and prostitute black children. That's what I'm saying.
So Bernard asked a follow-up question. He says, so non-ballers have no role to play? I would guess that they're the majority of minority students. What would you say for that? What role could they play to make a difference? Because they're not high profile. I get what he's saying.
Repeat that again, Pastor.
Okay. Bernard is following up by saying, so non-ballers have no role to play. He said because he imagines that they make up the majority of minority students on these white campuses.
But they don't bring the revenue in that athletes bring in. That's what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with economics. Economics is what I'm dealing with. Economics and championship. That brings bread on the table and give it recognition.
Let's talk about since we're talking about sports, and we are going to get to. Sorry, I'm good. We are going to get to talking about where I left off, where you guys were tearing me up last week about NFL players sacrificing. We have a case right now, and this is not a racist case. I think it's a financial thing. But on the other, and maybe we could ask the question, and Bernard is quite an athlete. Maybe he can help us on this one. Lamar Jackson, he's right here from Deerfield Beach down here in South Florida. In fact, there's a tremendous push to bring him back. Tomorrow, the Baltimore Ravens are going to make a decision on him to whether to let him go out on the free agent market, to franchise tag him. And there's two parts of the franchise tag. One part is where you have control over them, where they can't go out and another team cannot grab them, or on exclusive and the non-exclusive franchise tag allows a team to go and make an offer, and you have an opportunity to match the offer. Our contention is the Baltimore Ravens are the next to the last, the fourth from the bottom in offense when Lamar Jackson is not playing. When he's playing, they're the second most prolific offense in professional football. Will Bob Breezy have this same? He's at a contract year. Would he have to fight this hard to get the kind of contract that he wants when he's done everything? He's been the face of your franchise. He is basically your entire offense. He puts rear ends in the seats. Are there any racial components to this, do you guys think, or is this all about finances? We don't want to give him a big guaranteed contract.
I think it's both.
That's interesting.
I think it's both.
That's really interesting. And I don't know if anybody's ever even I don't know if anybody's ever even approached it from that standpoint. I don't know if anybody. Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
We have to understand production is economic.
Right.
The young man. Look at the results of their season when Lamar wasn't playing.
Right.
The results of the season when he was playing.
Right.
So you have to tie everything to what's important. Dead presidents dictate this world. Believe me when I tell you, dead presidents dictate this world, and we all need to get around that. Okay, what you talking about? Dead presidents dictate this world.
Mac Anderson, another a friend of our family, and another he's been watching us since day one on this, since this show launched 3 years ago. And thank you, Banker Bernard. He says market value should be maintained regardless. And my question is, do you think that the Ravens are crazy enough to test? Will they put him out there to put this to the open market? Say if the Jets offer him $55 million, 5 years, 3 years guaranteed, 4 years guaranteed, then the only way that the Ravens could maintain is they'd have to match that contract. Do you think that's what it's coming down to?
You asking me?
Yes, sir, because they're responding online. Yes, sir.
Well, I think it depends on what he wants to do. What he wants to do. I think, I don't know, you have to help me understand. I think his mother is working as his agent, I think.
Right.
I don't know, but I think that's what's taking place. And I think he's a young man. He's a quality athlete. It shows what he has been able to, with good Lord's blessing, what he has been able to accomplish. He's accumulated a lot. So, you get what you can when you're able to do so.
Right.
Because a lot of teams out there need a good quarterback.
I know the Dolphins would be glad to get him. They would give up 2 first-round picks in a Cincinnati second, as my dad would say, to bring him down here.
There's teams that need a good quarterback. I mean, there are teams that just need a good quarterback, and if whatever he has to do, bring and do it. Bring and do it.
Well, Mr. Jones, we ended last week with you all kind of you and my cousin Jan, y'all were giving in June a week before last, y'all were letting me have it because we talked about and I just heard you say earlier that how much you believe in, and believe me, I do too. I just sometimes as a host, you got to put it out there. With these guys commanding these kind of salaries that used to be one guy making a salary a year that used to be the entire profit margin of an entire franchise for a year, not too overly long ago, $54 million. I mean, that's unbelievable for a 1 year service. How hard would it be for our athletes to put it on the line and say, we're not going to compete? We'll start our own league until we get this thing becomes more equitable. We get more black owners. There are plenty of black billionaires out there. Believe me, they can put together an ownership team till we get certainly black coaches. And what I did a commentary a few weeks ago. What happened to Eric Bieniemy was just an absolute travesty. And a shout out to Andy Reid, because the last few months he has been putting him behind the microphone to negate this thing that he does not interview well. You get a chance to see his intelligence. Now, what he is a hard coach, and I didn't know that about Eric Bieniemy. He's a very demanding coach, and I have no problem with that. Most of the winners are, but what strategies could we come up with to appeal to our people to do a protest, Mr. Jones, that we could overcome this inequity in the coaching ranks?
I always go back and refer to the years that the athletes, black athletes, are being developed from midget football, junior high, Hot Warner, high school, black college. If we were able to develop those players then, and we use our skills and creativity to be a great coach, why is it that we don't have those same skills that you respect when they get to the NFL? What changes? What changes is your attitude. You just don't want black coaches being in charge. That's it. We did all the hard work from 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 on through high school. And once we get to professional, meaning tell me we don't have the skills to facilitate what we have been able to develop. I can't believe that.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Mac, in direct answer to the question, Mac says it's extremely difficult for these guys to come up with those salaries to make that kind of a sacrifice. Not too many people are willing to put on the line that Colin Kaepernick would. And you're absolutely right, Bernard. The Ravens will greatly regret. I don't care what 2 top draft picks they get. It takes a minute to develop talent. And while Lamar is packing rear ends in that stadium now, and he's doing it with nobody around him. He has literally no weapons around him. So you're absolutely right. They will pay for it if they lose him to over this contract squabble. He's a quality enough talent that he actually is worth the risk. If he gets hurt, it's worth the risk. Okay, I'm back, Mr. Jones. What Max says is extremely difficult to expect these athletes to give up these salaries to protest us not having the coaches. Starting with the coaches, starting right with the coaches. We don't have to get.
Nobody said give up anything. I'm just calling the attention of an evil. That's what I'm doing. I'm sharing with the audience the evil that exists in the NFL among black coaches and white coaches. Only thing I'm saying that from age 8 up until a graduate of college, we were in their lives developing them.
Right.
But all of a sudden, once they get to the pros, we don't have the creativity and the respect to be their head coach. That's what I'm saying. I'm calling evil out. That's evil.
It is. It really is, and I think it became very obvious in this thing with Eric Bieniemy. And again, shout out to Andy Reid, because he wanted to clear up this notion that the reason that Eric Bieniemy has not been given a head coaching job after almost 20 interviews is because he does not interview well. His intelligence, he's put his intelligence and football acumen on display for everybody to see. And it is proven that that narrative does not exist. He's very, very capable, very intelligent, and he could not have interviewed that poorly. Want to switch before we get out of here, Mr. Jones, and I'm so blessed to have these brothers join us. I want to talk about something that happened in the Black perspective. John Morantz, who, who am I? But I said that this boy is probably on his way to being the next Michael Jordan. I know Bernard will say the next LeBron James. Whoever we want to put him, he's a unique, he's an unbelievable talent. But along with his talent, seems to be this desire to thug out. So he has been seen in numerous venues displaying a gun. Then he and a juvenile 17-year-old got in while playing a video game, and he displayed a gun. The other night while in Denver, he after a hard loss, he went to a Denver strip club, I think it was, and he pulled a gun. Or he was videoed. He streamed on his own IG page, having a gun in his hand. So he has stepped away from the club. The club is probably asking him to step away. The NBA is asking him to step away for two games, and that is the minimum. He may be out longer. And this is a team that was really poised to make a shot at the NBA championship. And what has really been impressive is to see all of the Black commentators, Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilburn and Jalen Rose and others, step out and say to this brother, man, turn this thing around. You have too much. He's on the way to a $150 million contract. You have too much to lose to lose it like this. And what I've come by to say to us tonight, what can we do? And his dad is a part of his entourage. What can we do, Mr. Jones? We know what kind of dad you are to your children. We know what kind of dad I had. What can we do to this generation to keep their heads on straight, to keep their eyes on the prize, making money that our generation, even our generation, could not even fathom?
You know what disturbs me? Take a negative experience, one negative experience, and the media draws this all out of conclusion. All the good those gentlemen do, you don't get the kind of PR that they give one negative experience. And that's what you call destruction. And I don't think we should feed into that. I mean, he has surrounded himself with people, I would assume, who have talked to him and counseled him. I understand he has a great father.
Okay.
And what he's done, I hope that he will do whatever he needs to do. But that shows you what the media is. Of all the good he has done, they take one experience and market him as a negative. I don't like to buy into that. I don't like to give the media that positiveness when they want to take one experience and try to destroy somebody when there are other unjust things that are taking place for people who like you and I. They don't put that kind of marketing touch to it.
Well,
I've seen this happen for many, many years. I don't want to put anything to that.
Well, I like what Bernard is saying. Bernard is, we threw the question out. What can we do? Bernard saying there's not one thing that we aren't already doing, and that's kind of like piggybacking onto what you're saying, Mr. Jones. We're doing a lot of positive things. When Wilburn was almost in tears when this story broke on Saturday night. And in all fairness to the media, this is about the 5th incident in the last 2 years that has been recorded of Ja Morant's and his gunplay, or his affinity for guns. Morant's, I'm sure it was written by his people, but it was a statement that he said he's taking time away to get himself to come to grips with this and get himself basically to become healed. But I'm so glad to hear you say what you said, and I'm glad to see what Bernard said. He says there's not much more that we can do that we're already doing. Bernard's sons, if he had, or his children, he would be there with them, and even as grown, he would be guiding them. You, I know, Mr. Jones, I work with you with Quillie and with Carnation. You are right there. You and your wife were right there and guiding and directing. Our parents were right there, and it bred that in us that we're right there and doing the same thing.
Let me inject this. let's talk about what the legislature is doing here. They're getting ready to pass a law that anybody can buy a gun and wear it openly. Now, what's more crazy than that?
It's the Wild Wild West. It's a crazy governor. It's a governor that's playing into the hands of a crazed out demographic right now that the former president identified and played to, and this guy knows how to play it with a different flair to it. Mr. Jones, we got like 1 minute before we're supposed to be signing off. You have been so good to us during this streak. Again, the dialogue has made a decision. We're going to be covering Black topics as if there was never the end of a Black History Month. You have been so good to lend your wisdom to us, and we're not going to take the advantage of you. We may not call on you maybe now for maybe a month or so, but rest assured we will be calling you back as we deal with these topics. Would you just give us a closing minute statement about how we as a people can progress in this society?
We have to be creative, imaginative, and supportive. We cannot allow any one incident or any incident to degrade us. When people are going to pass a law in this country to say you can carry a gun without having a permit openly, don't let one incident define who we are. Because we ain't, and I use ain't very vividly, we ain't going to be going for that.
I love it.
We got to take care of our little ones and let them know we're supporting them.
I love it. I'm trying to put it in a text. Imaginative, creative, and supportive. And I'm doing a poor job of typing it, but I want this to be in the record. Imaginative, creative, imaginative, and supportive. That's what we have to be. Mr. Jones, we thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
We love and appreciate you, and we got you covered in prayers. Bernard, Mac, bless you all. We're going to be back at this thing next week. I know we got to get a sports topic in here somewhere, but we'll just kind of maybe immerse us. We're going to be talking about some of these serious topics and dealing with them. Let's see. We must blow our own horn. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. We must blow the horns of our elders who has blazed the trail for us, like Mr. Quillie Jones. I'm forever indebted to you, sir. And we greatly...
Just pray for me. The Lord will take care of the rest.
Thank you, sir. Hey, Dialogue with Dozell. We made it a great show. You made it a great show tonight. Tell somebody to go back and look at it. Doesn't matter. It won't be live. They can still go back and look at this. This dialogue is too rich not to get out there. Roland Martin does not have a coin on great dialogue. We do it right here every Monday night on YouTube and Facebook Live. We have great ones like Mr. Quillie Jones and others. Thank you, Madam Producer. We love you. She said something the other week when we talked about Black education. She talked about the nurturing that you get on the campus of an HBCU that you won't find anywhere else. We love you. God bless you. See you next week. Dialogue with Dozell. We're out.
Thank you, Lord, for you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We love you, sir.